Hello, and welcome to today's special podcast. In fact, today I would like to tell you a story. Okay, this is a real life story of me. Okay, it's something that happened just last week Friday. Okay, so usually I'm the type I usually work from home. Okay, my current job I work from home a lot, but just last Friday I had to go to the office. So I had something to do. So I didn't work from home. All right. So I left as early as 7 to get to my workplace around 9 so that I will come back home at what? At somewhere I usually get home whenever I'm to work. Whenever I'm not working from home and then I just leave the house for the office and I'm coming back, I usually come back around 7, not 7, right? Sometime around 8 p.m. thereabout, right? So it was the exact time at which I came, all right? So what happened was that when I got back from work, all right, I I came to the building, all right, where I live, and then usually this particular building, the main entrance actually has two doors, all right, two transparent glass doors. So the first door you need to put in a code, right, in order to open. And then with the second door, you actually need a key. All right. So one other thing to note in this particular story is that I'm going to tell you this plain story without, passing any judgments. And then I would like you to let me know in the comment section as you watch this particular video and listen to my story, what is your point of view about all that happened, all right? So, but basically, the story is all about, a neighbor in front of the door, right? Who said no word and left and shut the door. Or should I say, let me not say shut the door, right? She just closed the door gently, but never said a word. So, I'll continue with the story, what really happened, all right? So, what happened was that when I got to the first door, one other thing to note is that I don't know whether I've already said this, but I am a new tenant. Okay, so the building is like a tall building, right? And there are several tenants. Everybody in his or her living room, apartment, or studio, or whatever, right? So I'm occupying my apartment or studio, and then um, when I got home, right, when I arrived at the main door, like I said, the main entrance has two doors. First glass door with a code, which I entered and got in. With the second door, I needed to use my key. So when I got to the second door, I had to check in my bag to see whether I was having my keys with me. All right. So, and to be honest with you, it wasn't as if the keys were missing. But when I checked, I think, the key it's actually my laptop bag for the work. So where I kept the key was, actually hidden right, under the bag. I just had to actually take my time to look for it. Okay. But whilst I was looking for the key, all just happened within like a minute. So while I was looking for the key, I saw somebody coming from inside. I was in front of this second door that I'm saying that I needed a key to enter. Now, this person has just arrived from the inside, also in front of the same door. However, this person from the inside did not need a key to exit. because for him, he just had to just press a button and then the door opens. So when I noticed that this guy arrived, I was like, oh, hooray. Thanks for saving me. I no longer have to waste my time trying to get my key because I was coming from outside and it was actually cold. So I actually had my head covered, not my face wasn't covered, of course, but I had to cover my ears, right? So I was wearing this jacket that had a, what do we call it? It'll come back later, What we use to cover our head, we have some jackets that have something to cover the head, right? A hoodie or whatever, yeah. So I covered my head, It wasn't really a hoodie kind of like, this was like, I don't know how to describe it, right? So it just covered or just descend. And I was actually, the way I was dressed, I was also presentable because I was coming from the office. My shoes were not like, I wasn't wearing boots or maybe something that could create any sort of fear or panic, when he saw me or something, right? I was just decent because, like I said, I was coming from the office with my laptop bag and everything. So I stood there, and whilst I was looking for my key to open the second door to enter, this man arrived at the second door, and he could see me from the inside. I could also see him from the outside, right? So I was just expecting him now to open the door from the inside since he had just arrived. So I would just enter and thank him. To my biggest surprise, he stood there for like a few more seconds, close to a minute, while I was still looking for my key. And as soon as I saw him, I was a bit reluctant to even looking for my key because usually when somebody is going out and he's opening the door, we just, if for instance he had opened the door and I just ignored him and continued looking for my key, that would have come across as somebody that is, I don't know, like at least we should have spoken to each other, we should have just greeted or something, especially as neighbors. So for me, I had all this in mind. So as soon as he stood in front and he was looking at me, I smiled, just to let him know that I wasn't a threat. I'm just like a neighbor. Though I've been in the building or I just relocated here, it's been like I think 3 months now or 4 months. 3 or 4 months, yeah. I knew him, okay, when I saw his face. I don't know his name, but at least I could recognize his face, right? I definitely don't know all the tenants in the building, right? But I could recognize his face. He probably might have not recognized me, especially because I had a hoodie on. But I don't really think so. Or let's assume that is the case, right? If he could not recognize me, at least I expected that he speak to me because I was actually smiling. I actually waved at him and said I just got here and I was looking for my key. Though he could not hear me, but he could see my actions and everything. But to my biggest surprise, he stood for a few seconds, as I said, and then when he realized that I had not yet found my key, or I had not yet found my key, yes, he simply opened the door gently. All right. So when he opened the door, I was like, thank you. And I wanted to enter. He did not do it forcefully because while he left, I was still concentrated on looking at my key. So by the time I looked, he had already closed the door and he was about to go out. But it happened, everything showed that he did not want me to enter. So it wasn't as if maybe I was concentrating on my keys. That's why he just didn't know what I was all about. And that's why, no, that wasn't the case. So that makes me think, okay, could it be that he was waiting inside so I would enter? Was that the case? I don't think so, because if that was the case, the way he acted, he never greeted, though I was smiling, or he never talked to me, he just left. And he could see I was actually looking for my key, and I actually got through the first door, meaning I probably had a code which allowed me to get in. So my second thought was that, okay, he was probably in panic and fear of who might be this guy with the hoodie. And though I was decently dressed, as I said, I only had a hoodie on just to make sure I cover my ears, but my face was seen. I was decently dressed with my shoes, professional shoes for that matter, because I was coming from work. All right. So the second thing was, okay, if he was probably in fear and panic, he probably did not want to talk to me, because speaking to me after he opened the door would mean that he would allow me in by kindness, because once you speak to this man, even if he hasn't got the keys, you are most likely going to say, okay, you don't have your keys, then get in. So he probably wanted to not just engage with me and to act as if I was a stranger. Probably he thought I was, because to him, he probably thought I was pretending as if I was looking for my key so as for him to open for me to enter. But the least he could do, in my opinion, was to ask, finally, when he came out, do you stay here? Are you looking for somebody? Or what are you looking for? Or like, or at least just something, right? But the fact that he didn't say anything and he stood there watching me, he was supposed to go out, actually push aside to allow him to go out. He wasn't going out. He finally left. And he closed the door without saying a word. That made me say, could it be that he was just being wicked? I wouldn't want to say everything, but could it be that he was just being wicked? A wicked neighbor? I'm like, but probably not. So I'm now left, or I was just left confused. I was like, was this guy having some prejudice? Probably he took me for somebody a radical, or somebody that when I wasn't, so I felt a bit disappointed and, disappointed and about how he treated me, or how he just got out without saying a word, and why he had to stop as soon as he saw me at the door, and why he never spoke a word and just left, why he never allowed me in after he opened the door, though he did it gently, and I wouldn't also want to force myself in, though I knew I was a tenant, because that wouldn't be right, trying to force my way in when he was closing the door. So I just took my time, searched in my bag. I finally got my key, and then I opened. When I opened, before I enter, I tried to look back to see whether he was watching me. Maybe he thought this was like somebody that was potentially dangerous, or he didn't know, whatever. But I saw that he had walked away, he had left. And then I got in. So I got in, and my whole evening was messed up. I was like, what kind of prejudice is this? At least you should have asked who I was instead of just taking me for somebody that I'm probably not. Or could it be that he knew who I was, or could it be that he probably was standing there, but it's not as if he pushed, it's not as if, let's say, when he saw me, he shifted away to give way for me to open the door and enter. If that was the case, then I would have said, okay, though his exit did not require a key, he just had to press the button to open. But he probably cared for me and wanted me to enter first. But that wasn't the case, because he stood right in front of the door, the glass door, and I could see him and he could also see me. And even when he stood there and realized that I wasn't entering, I was still looking for my key, he did not just go out immediately. He took his time to watch and observe what I was doing. Finally, when he left, he never said a word. He just went wherever he was going. But now, at the same time, I'm like, assuming I was the one inside and somebody else who was coming from the outside was actually somebody that was like a dangerous person, right? A radical for that matter, because we are in the city and you never know. And this guy probably at the door had allowed this person in. And when this particular person got in, caused some harm, probably I became a victim of this particular, the actions of this particular radical that got into the building. Would I have had the same opinion of a wicked tenant who saw me at the door but did not want to open the door or was afraid to go out? Or finally, when he left, he never said a word? I probably would have had a different opinion. But the way he acted also, I really felt a little bit, I don't know, I felt like I was a victim of some form of prejudice. So I'm still, I'm still kind of confused. I don't really know. Let me know in the comment section, what is your thought? All right. What do you think about all that happened? Do you think he was taking me for a radical? He was afraid? Or what do you think? Or do you think what he did was right? He wanted to ensure that whoever that was entering was somebody that was a tenant, a true tenant, because he was also a tenant, so it's not like the security, right? But or do you just think he was showing me some form of prejudice?